All right, let's dive into high-tech investing.
One of those things that's kind of like,
A little intimidating, maybe?
yeah, intimidating, exciting, and always changing, right?
Exactly. That's why we're here, right?
It's right.
To break it down.
Yeah,
So whether you're, prepping for a meeting or just fascinated by this world, we're here to make it a little bit easier.
absolutely.
And today we have a stack of stuff to get through.
Yeah.
We have excerpts from the Gorilla Game,
Mm-hmm.
and we have some really interesting magazine articles.
Okay. So this should be a really good one.
Yeah,
This is going to be fun.
yeah. I think we're going to be able to give people the knowledge to make some smarter decisions
For sure, for sure.
in this crazy landscape.
Yeah, and it's not just about understanding the tech itself,
Right.
but it's about understanding the forces that shape markets and the companies that rise to dominate them.
Totally. Because I feel like the thing with tech is, it's like today's hot startup could be tomorrow's, like,
Absolutely.
forgotten
Yeah.
company.
Yeah, the speed at which things move,
It's so fast.
which is incredible.
So how do we even make sense of it all?
Well, I think, our sources today point to this powerful concept called, the guerrilla game,
Okay.
right?
Right.
And it's all about spotting the companies that aren't just playing in a growing market, but are actually poised to become the dominant force.
I like that.
The 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Okay. So we're not just talking about
We're not talking about.
finding the companies that are in a growing market,
Right. Yeah.
but the ones that are going to actually
yeah, control it.
control it.
Exactly.
Like be the big dog, the top dog.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. So how powerful is this effect? Like, give me an example.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a classic example, I mean, there's a lot, but I think we can all think about Microsoft. Right. Back in 1986, when they went public, their market cap, and just to define that quickly for people, that's the total value of all the company's shares,
Right.
was a respectable $640 million.
Okay.
But fast forward a decade, and they were sitting at over $130 billion.
Okay. So that's not just like
It's not just
good returns. That's life-changing wealth
it's huge.
for early investors, I'm sure.
Absolutely. You're talking about nearly a 200 bagger.
Right.
And that kind of growth really highlights why understanding the guerrilla game is so critical.
Okay. I'm officially on board.
I like it.
But how do we even begin to understand the high-tech landscape,
Well, I
I
think
feel like it's so overwhelming to even think about.
that's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think our sources today really provide a helpful model for visualizing how these high tech markets actually develop.
Okay.
And it's almost like a journey, if you will,
Okay.
with distinct stages.
Okay. So like a roadmap to navigating this crazy world.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a roadmap.
All right. So walk me through this roadmap.
All right, so think about watching a plant grow, right? First you have that little sprout, right?
Yeah.
Pushing its way through the soil, and that's a lot like the early market, right?
It's okay.
Full of visionary customers and tech enthusiasts, those early adopters, the ones that really want to take risks.
Right. The risk takers, the ones that are
Yeah,
that are
they're
willing to
considering all the new stuff.
absolutely. Yeah. The ones who are okay with things breaking,
Right, exactly.
And then to really kind of become a mighty tree, it's got to survive some pretty harsh weather, right?
Right.
Maybe fight for some sunlight. And that's kind of like the chasm
Okay.
where, those mainstream customers are a little more hesitant.
Right.
And a lot of promising technologies just, they wither at that point.
Oh, so they don't even make it to the mainstream.
Right.
A lot of them don't. Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of them kind of get stuck in that early market, that chasm.
Got it.
But the really interesting part is when a technology actually makes it through that.
Right. So what happens when it survives?
That's when things get really, really exciting.
Okay.
It's almost like that plant, having survived all those challenges, suddenly explodes into growth, right? And becomes part of this vast, thriving forest, right? That's that mainstream market,
Gotcha.
where, the more pragmatic customers start jumping on board, and we see that explosive growth that our sources call the tornado.
Okay, the tornado. This is where it gets real.
That's where the big.
This is where we see the gorillas
the gorillas coming out.
coming out. Okay.
That's where the gorillas really come into their own.
Got it. So the gorilla game is not about those early market players.
No.
It's about finding those companies that are ready to ride the tornado.
Absolutely. It's about riding that wave. That's where those incredible Microsoft level returns are found.
Got it.
Yeah.
So knowing where a technology sits on this kind of like growth curve
Right.
is super key to assessing its potential.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
But how do we identify the potential gorilla companies in the first place?
well, that's where the real fun begins, I think.
Okay.
Our sources introduced this really fascinating system for categorizing
Okay.
high-tech companies. And you can think of it almost like a kind of, high-tech ecosystem with different species vying for dominance, right?
Oh.
You've got your gorillas at the top, your kings, your princes, and even your chimps.
So it's like a high-tech jungle out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so tell me about these players.
All right, so the gorillas, much like you'd imagine, are the dominant players,
Yep.
right? You think of, Microsoft, Intel, Cisco.
Got it.
They control what we call proprietary architectures,
Okay.
meaning that they basically set the rules of the game.
Okay.
And because switching away from their products is often expensive or really complicated,
Yeah.
they have what's called high switching costs, which gives them a major advantage in the market.
So they're calling the shots. They're building the core technologies that everyone else is then relying on.
Absolutely.
Okay. What about kings? Are those just mini gorillas?
No, not quite.
Yeah.
Kings are strong leaders in their market,
Okay.
but they don't have the same iron grip on the underlying technology.
Got it.
And that leaves them a little more vulnerable to competition.
Okay.
So you think companies like, Compaq or Seagate in their respective markets,
Right.
they're successful, they're doing well,
Yeah.
but they constantly have to defend their territory.
Okay.
Right. They don't have that same kind of locked-in advantage
Got it.
that a gorilla might have.
Okay. And then we have princes.
We have princes. Yeah.
Sensing a theme here.
Yeah. We're going with
What about these guys?
the royalty theme. Yeah.
Yeah.
So princes are the up and comers, right?
Okay.
These are the ones with the potential to really shake things up.
I love an underdog story.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
So they might not be huge yet,
Yeah.
but they're executing well, and they're finding these innovative ways to really gain ground.
Mm-hmm.
So think Dell in its early days, right?
Okay.
Really, really finding new ways to reach customers and deliver value.
Right.
These are the ones to watch because these are the ones that could become the gorillas.
Right. So today's prince
These-
could
yeah.
be tomorrow's gorilla.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the exciting part. You never really know how things are going to play out.
So, okay, so we got gorillas,
Yeah.
kings, princes, chimps.
Mhm.
Where do they fit in?
So chimps are interesting, right?
Okay.
They might have strong technology, but they're often stuck battling a gorilla head to head for market share.
So both kings and chimps, it seems like they lack
Yeah.
kind of the power of a gorilla, right?
That's right.
But the difference is kings have already kind of achieved a level of success.
That's exactly right.
And chimps are still fighting.
Chimps are still trying to.
Yeah, they're trying to prove themselves.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So all these players are their destinies are intertwined.
They're all connected.
It's creating this like dynamic landscape
Well,
full of opportunity
and risk.
and risk.
Exactly.
So it's a high stakes game.
It's a high stakes
And to
game.
succeed, you need to know the rules.
Got to know the rules of the jungle.
Okay, so what are the rules of the gorilla game?
Okay, so rule number 1, invest only in companies participating in a tornado market.
Okay, so we're not even looking at the early market.
Forget the early market players.
Okay.
Those are too unpredictable.
You want to be where the hypergrowth is. You want to be where the massive returns are happening.
So ride the wave, not the ripple.
Ride the wave, yeah.
Okay, got it. Rule number 1.
Rule number 2, focus on companies that provide enabling technology,
Okay.
the essential building blocks that other companies depend on.
So what does that mean? Enabling technology.
So think of it like this, during a gold rush,
Okay.
you don't necessarily want to be the one digging for gold.
Right.
You want to be the one selling the picks and shovels.
Right, providing the tools.
Exactly. And in tech, this means investing in things like, operating systems or microprocessors, the crucial tools that everyone needs.
Right, the foundation.
The foundation, exactly.
Without them, the whole thing crumbles.
Without them, you can't do any of it.
Yeah.
Got it. So find those companies that are providing those essential tools. Rule number 2.
Rule number 2.
Okay. Final rule. Rule number 3, and this one's crucial. Identify the gorilla in each tornado market and concentrate your investments around that company.
Okay, don't spread yourself too thin.
Yeah. You got it?
Remember,
Gorillas
gorillas crush the competition.
crush the competition.
Yeah.
Wow, this approach requires a lot of patience.
It does.
How do investors stay focused on that long game when the tech world moves so fast?
Well, that's the million-dollar question right there, I think.
Yeah.
And it's one that often trips up even, seasoned investors.
Right.
It's very easy to get caught up in the hype cycle to chase the next hot trend. But I think the real key to success in the guerrilla game here is discipline.
Okay.
It's about trusting your analysis, identifying those long-term winners, and really sticking with them.
So having the conviction.
Having the conviction.
To ride out the storm.
Yeah, absolutely.
That the gorilla is going to ultimately
weather the storm better than the rest. Weather it better than the rest.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, but even with that conviction, wouldn't it be wise to diversify into multiple tornado markets, right?
Yeah.
It still feels risky to just put all your eggs in one basket, even if it's a gorilla-sized one.
Yeah, diversification is absolutely essential for managing risk.
Okay.
You never want to bet the farm on a single technology or industry, no matter how promising it seems.
Right.
So instead, spread those investments across several tornado markets.
Okay.
Each with its own gorilla, poised for dominance. And that way, if one market stumbles, you're still positioned to capture the growth in others.
So it's about finding that balance.
It's about finding that balance, yeah.
A concentrated bet on the gorilla,
right,
but within a diversified portfolio.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so
what are those chimps we talked about?
Those chimps, how do those factor into this whole portfolio strategy?
Yeah, chimps can be tempting, I'll admit. They often promise those quick, exciting gains.
Right, the get rich quick kind of.
Yeah, exactly. The ones that make headlines, but remember, they're inherently risky. They lack the staying power of a gorilla, and they're much more likely to be overtaken by a more powerful player. So my advice: sell those chimps aggressively. Don't get seduced by the lure of those short-term profits. Keep your eyes on the long game.
So stick with the proven gorillas.
Stick with the gorillas.
Avoid getting caught in the chimp chase.
That's right.
It's all about discipline, right?
It is. It's about recognizing the difference between a fleeting opportunity and a lasting advantage.
Totally. And that same discipline applies to what our sources call royalty games.
Royalty games. These are those markets where no single company really manages to establish that true gorilla dominance.
Okay.
They can be profitable for a while, but the party always ends eventually as hypergrowth slows and competition really starts to heat up.
So don't overstay your welcome.
Don't overstay your welcome, Know when to cash out your chips before the house wins.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So constant balance between maximizing gains and protecting your capital.
It's a dance.
It's a dance.
Oh, sure, for sure.
Speaking of changing dynamics, I think it's time we address the elephant in the room.
Or maybe the 800-pound gorilla in the server room.
Yeah.
How is the internet reshaping this whole gorilla game?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's everywhere. The internet is changing everything.
It's the platform for so much of this.
How do we even begin to understand its impact on this whole game we've been talking about?
Well, I think let's start with e-commerce. The rise of online marketplaces, these vast digital bazaars where buyers and sellers connect, is creating entirely new breeds of gorillas and really toppling traditional business models.
Yeah.
Companies like, Amazon, eBay, even more specialized marketplaces are really transforming how we buy and sell.
It's mind-boggling, really.
It is.
These companies are facilitating billions of transactions, connecting people
across the globe
and businesses across the globe in ways that we couldn't have imagined just a few decades ago.
It's true.
And it's not just about consumers, right?
Right.
What about the business-to-business side of things?
Absolutely. Business-to-business e-commerce is exploding as well.
Yeah.
There's there's massive potential here to streamline, those really clunky supply chains,
Right.
create hyper-efficient marketplaces where businesses can connect directly, cut costs, increase transparency,
Yeah.
and that's opening up huge opportunities for companies that can build the platforms
Right.
and tools.
Provide those essential tools.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To power these transactions.
So the guerrilla game is being played out on an even grander scale now,
It is.
with the internet as the ultimate arena.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the great enabler.
But what about those companies that aren't directly involved in e-commerce?
Right?
Can they just ignore this massive shift?
No, not a chance.
Okay.
Even companies that might seem, completely unrelated to the internet are feeling the impact.
Oh, yeah?
Some are thriving, others are struggling to adapt.
Right.
We call these internet affected stocks.
Internet affected?
Yeah.
Okay.
And take a company like Hewlett Packard, for example.
Okay.
Their traditional business model has been hit hard by the rise of online competitors,
Mm-hmm.
and it's reflected in their stock price.
So the internet is like this tidal wave,
It is
reshaping the entire business landscape,
reshaping the entire
creating winners
and losers.
and losers, even in the most unexpected corners.
Absolutely.
It's like the internet itself has become the biggest gorilla of them all.
It's a powerful analogy.
Yeah.
The internet has injected this whole new level of dynamism and interconnectedness into the guerrilla game,
Yeah.
and it's made the stakes even higher, I think.
Okay, so much to unpack here.
A lot to unpack.
We've covered the fundamentals of the guerrilla game, how to identify those dominant companies,
Right.
and now how the internet is changing the game entirely.
Yeah, changing the landscape.
My head's spinning a little bit, to be honest.
It's a lot to take in, for sure.
Before we move on,
Yeah.
can we recap the key takeaways?
Absolutely. So remember, the guerrilla game is all about identifying those companies with the potential to dominate their markets.
Oh.
We're talking about riding that wave of hypergrowth, managing your portfolio with discipline and foresight, and really recognizing how the internet is both a catalyst and a disruptor.
Right.
It's not about chasing fads.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the forces
Right.
that shape markets.
The underlying forces.
Yeah, and making strategic decisions based on that understanding.
Right. So it's about finding those companies
Yeah.
that control those essential building blocks, those enabling technologies that power whole industries.
That's right.
It's about understanding the different players, the gorillas,
Yeah.
kings,
Right. All those different players.
princes, chimps,
Yeah.
knowing how to navigate that complex ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And perhaps most importantly, it's about recognizing that the guerrilla game is a dynamic process.
It's constantly evolving.
It's constantly evolving.
Yeah, it's like it shifted everything into overdrive.
It really has.
What was once a relatively predictable landscape has become this
Yeah.
constantly shifting terrain.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
And that's why I think, continuous learning is so crucial in this game.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be adaptable.
Right.
Always questioning those assumptions.
Yeah.
And ready to adjust your strategies as the market evolves.
So it's not just about learning the rules.
No.
It's about understanding that the rules themselves are changing
The rules are changing.
faster than we can keep up.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so challenging.
But I have to say, learning about all this is energizing,
Oh, absolutely.
Like we've been given this new lens to view the tech world,
Yeah.
to see the patterns and the potential in a whole new way.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the guerrilla game is more than just a set of investment principles.
Right.
It's a framework for understanding, how innovation unfolds, how markets are created and disrupted, and how those shifts create these incredible opportunities
Yeah.
for those who can see them coming.
And speaking of opportunities.
Yeah. I think it's time to put our listeners to the test here.
Okay. I like it.
We've armed you with the knowledge, the insights, the playbook.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's your turn to play the game.
Let's do it.
So let's shift gears here and engage those brilliant minds out there. We've talked about the gorillas of today, right?
Yeah.
The Microsofts, the Intels, the Ciscos.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the gorillas of tomorrow?
the gorillas of tomorrow.
What emerging technologies or industries do you think have the potential to spawn the next generation
Yeah.
of market dominators?
It's a great question.
What are the sprouts pushing through the soil right now?
Yeah.
That could become the towering trees of the future.
Right. What are those little seedlings that have the potential to really explode?
Artificial intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
biotechnology, renewable energy, the metaverse.
Yeah.
I mean, the possibilities seem
Endless.
endless.
They really do. And that's what makes this whole journey so exciting.
Mhm.
The Gorilla Game is an ongoing adventure.
Okay.
It's a constant exploration of the frontiers of innovation and the forces that really shape our world.
Absolutely. And remember, staying informed is key here.
Staying informed is paramount.
Read, research, explore, question.
Yeah.
The more you learn,
Yeah.
the better equipped you'll be to spot those emerging gorillas,
Mhm.
to make those smart decisions that could lead to those incredible returns.
And remember, it's not just about the financial gains, it's
Right.
it's about being part of something bigger.
Yeah.
About understanding and even shaping the future.
Yeah, it's pretty inspiring when you think about it.
It is. It's about recognizing that power of human ingenuity and the potential for technology to create a better world for all of us.
So keep your eyes open, your mind sharp,
Yeah.
and your sense of wonder alive.
Absolutely.
Who knows? Maybe you'll be the one to discover the next
Yeah.
tech giant hiding in plain sight.
Happy hunting.
Happy hunting, and thanks for joining us.
And thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Gorilla Game.